Good people, what is going on? We back at it again. You be like, wait a minute, you was just live last night. You coming at us again? Yes, I'm coming at you again. We got the lives going back to back today. Today we got another special episode for you. I'm really excited for this episode. We're gonna get into, the heart of what it means to understand draft prospects, understand players from what you see on Sundays and Thursdays and Monday nights, to what we see breaking down film and actually studying these players. We got a good one tonight. So you want to tune in. You want to keep your eyes open. You want to keep your ears open because you're going to get a lot of good content, a lot of good information tonight. So we just going to jump right in. You already know the special guest. You've seen it on the flyer. But if you haven't, let me just give you a brief introduction about Mr. Eric Crocker. After playing 4 years of professional football as a cornerback in both the NFL and the Arena Football League, Eric Crocker began coaching and training athletes. As a 9-year-old kid, Eric would record NFL games on Sunday and rewatch those games throughout the week. I used to do that too. His film obsession and playing experience gave him the gift to not only evaluate talent, but also coach it up. In 2017, Eric began utilizing his skill set on Twitter to evaluate and break down college and professional athletes. From there, he began covering the 49ers on 4th and 9, which included articles and media credentials for training camp practices and regular season games. Striving to become more organized and detail-oriented, Croc, as they call him, decided to create a website where all of his work can be found. He is here today. Y'all give a big Mose Knows welcome to Eric Crocker. Croc, what's going on with you, bro?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on.
Man, thanks for being on. For those that don't know, I met Eric Crocker in 2019. My first time actually being out in California. My first time at a Niners home game. Cool dude. We chopped it up about football. Actually, the hotel we were staying at was in walking distance of the stadium. And I mean, this dude was dropping gems all the way from the hotel to the stadium. I learned so much in that brief conversation, and I know y'all are going to learn a lot tonight. Eric played cornerback professionally. Eric, just, tell the people from, your lens, what it's like, to be a professional athlete, to play the cornerback position at such a high level. What are some things that you learned during your career? What are some things, that have stuck with you during your journey?
Man, I think with all of it is it's a business. I think that's one thing I learned most. Just the way that the coaches, everybody's livelihood is on the line, and I think that when we kind of watch the game from a fan's perspective, we kind of forget the human element part of it. That these guys are doing this to provide for their families, and 1 minute somebody's there, next minute they're gone, and you can't take it personal. It's all business. But I think that was probably the biggest thing that I learned, especially being in the NFL, seeing guys get cut left to right. I'm like, damn, like, am I going to be next? Like, that's the one thing you realize, like, it is a business. And that's one thing I think fans might kind of overlook that aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I mean, I haven't had the experience, but, we hear it and we see it all the time. I think the fans kind of get some insight, as it pertains to like Hard Knocks and, falling in love with maybe some players through that show. And then seeing what happens at the end of training camp. Maybe some of those guys don't make the final roster. But like you said, there's no way to experience that, if you're not in it. Like you said, your livelihood, your family's livelihood is on the line. So that's something that, a lot of people go through. Well, E, we're going to use your expertise today for sure. As we, read in your breakdown, you've been doing film studies since you were a kid. You have a keen eye for breaking down film and understanding the strengths and weaknesses of these players, specifically the cornerback position. That's your expertise. So we're going to start and we're just going to go over some of the cornerbacks in this draft class. We're going to get your insight, get your thoughts on the player. You can tell us, what you've seen in your film breakdown of them, their strengths, their weaknesses, your thoughts about where they were selected. How do you think they'll fare in that system? So break it down for us, man. Give it to us real. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to start with the first cornerback who was selected in the draft, and that is going to be J.C. Horn, cornerback from South Carolina. going to the Carolina Panthers. Eric, in your study of J.C. Horn, what did you see? What did you like? What did you not like?
I think with J.C. Horn, obviously he's somebody that possesses like all the talent, right? From a height, weight, speed standpoint, he has that. But I think the thing that separates him from other guys and why, he was kind of my favorite prospect in this class was just his mindset. A lot of guys possess talent, but what are you going to do to take that talent to the next level? And I think when you kind of start to find out who he is, and you hear him say that he's the standard, he's not paying attention to what anybody else is doing, and just his aggressiveness and mindset, on the field, how he carried himself, different challenges that he took on, to maybe follow guys and shadow guys where a lot of other corners in college kind of stay on one side of the field. And then just his work ethic off of the field, like his relentless effort to continuously get better, kind of had that dog mentality. I think, having a lot of those things, like I think the who the person is matters. The talent's there. I mean, that's clear. You can turn on any film and see it. But it's the things off of the field that I think even makes you like this guy even more. So I think he's definitely a big-time prospect, one of my favorite prospects over the last few years. When you see where he went, I think he's going to be somebody that goes in there and he's an alpha male. He's a dog. He's a leader. I was on the Jets with one of his coaches at South Carolina, and that coach told me that guy, J.C. Horn, stepped into that locker room as a freshman and was the leader and took on that role. So that's the kind of player that the Panthers are drafting in. I liked him a lot, and I was telling people, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he went ahead of Surtain. And a lot of people thought I was crazy, but when teams and organizations come across guys that are like that have those type of mindsets, they're gonna move that player up a little bit, and we saw that happen with J.C. Horn.
Yeah, man, you mentioned his mentality. I think the biggest thing that I saw from him is he reminds me a lot of his dad. Joe Horn played with that same intensity, that same fire. He was in your face. It didn't matter who was in front of him. And I think JC is the exact same way. He brings that passion. He brings that fire. He brings, like you said, that dog mentality where it doesn't matter who he's lined up across. And in that division, he's got to face guys like DJ Moore, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. I think he's in a division where we're going to see that dog mentality come out a lot because those guys are established veterans in this league. So they're going to try to test him early as a rookie. And it's going to be up to him to really, make his claim, as one of those guys who it doesn't matter, who you are, what you've achieved. I'm bringing my lunch pill today. I'm going to work. As far as weaknesses, did you see anything? Maybe not a weakness but things that he can improve on, in his first year in the NFL?
I'd say, overall, you probably would like a little bit more, maybe foot quickness or twitchiness, or a little bit. But I thought he was fine with it. That's kind of to be expected when you have a guy that's, 6'1", 205 pounds, right? They're not going to be the quickest or twitchiest of guys. I think for him, it's just mastering how to play, with that, limitations, or whatnot. But for the most part, I think that was maybe the only thing that I saw that could possibly, hold him back. And it won't affect him against bigger receivers, maybe more so smaller guys with just better change of direction. They could potentially give him a tough time. But, when you look at the division that he's in and going up against guys like Michael Thomas, like you mentioned, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, those guys, I don't think those would be the guys that give him trouble from that standpoint. Maybe them just being veterans and having a little bit more craftiness that he has to, figure out. But as far as just being able to cover those guys, I don't think he'll have issues from a movement skill standpoint.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the next player in the list. Drafted one selection after J.C. Horn was Patrick Surtain II, the son of Patrick Surtain, longtime NFL corner. Out of Alabama, 6'2", 208 pounds, arguably looked at as one of the top corners in this draft. You can have J.C. Horn one. Some people had Surtain one. Some people had other cornerbacks one. From your film study of Pat, what did you see?
Yeah, I liked him. I thought he He, along with Tyson Campbell, probably had like the most patient feet at the line of scrimmage that I've ever seen. I thought they were both, talking about Surtain, extremely patient at the line of scrimmage. I thought he did a really good job working to get hands on. I thought I talked about Horn and maybe not being the twitchiest of guys, but I thought even Surtain struggled a little bit more with that. Just his like being able to change pace with receivers. I thought that might be somewhat of an issue with him, but more time than not, he's extremely patient. I think that'll help him be consistent. He went to a scheme where they played primarily off coverage, a lot of cover 4, with Fangio. We'll see if they kind of adjust that a little bit and play him more at the line of scrimmage. I think that'll help him a little bit more, but running vertically with guys, it didn't seem to be an issue. Obviously, he tested extremely well at his pro day. But he's another guy that, most people really like. I like him as well. I think he could play with a little bit more anticipation from a Bill standpoint, but overall, obviously a terrific prospect.
Now, for those watching, can you explain what you mean by having patient feet for a corner, and why is that a positive? Why is that a good thing for corners to have patient feet?
Yeah, so at the line of scrimmage, a lot of receivers, they want to do like dancing and different things. They want to try to move the cornerback. He's somebody who doesn't go for a lot of what the receiver is giving him at the line of scrimmage. So his patience really makes it hard for receivers because he dictates the space. Like a lot of times receivers start to move in and doing all this, corners start to kind of give ground a little bit. And then from there, the receivers, they would kind of maybe attack his leverage or just cross his face. With Surtain, he doesn't really move. So he makes it more difficult on a guy trying to, move him and stuff like that. So from that standpoint, just really patient where he does a good job of moving his feet, but doesn't overly move his feet to where he's not like hopping around or going for the first thing that the receiver gives him.
And from what you've seen and what you've experienced, what does that do in the mind of a wide receiver when he can't, chop his feet and get his move off? How does that mess up his timing? How does, that mess up a wide receiver's ability to think on his feet and throw a counter move in there? Obviously, if that's happening, you would assume that throws off the timing with the route and the quarterback. But what does that do in a receiver's head when you have patient feet as a corner and you're dictating what he does as opposed to letting him dictate what you do?
Yeah, it makes the receiver like he's gonna have to figure out like, okay, I can't. He's so patient, and those are some of the hardest corners for receivers at the line of scrimmage. So like, okay, how am I gonna beat him? And you probably just want to go now. So you might see receivers just do more speed releases against him instead of trying to like dance, because that's not gonna work. So if I had to guess, that might be what they do. But even then, he can run with guys, so I don't think that'll be an issue at all. But maybe I think that's the adjustment you see from receivers: more speed releases or one step and go right now and not waste time with him at the line of scrimmage because it's really tough to move him.
Trying to tell y'all this is good stuff. Y'all better be taking notes. Y'all gonna see this, in the upcoming season. So take these notes, get these gems down. All right, moving to the next corner, and I think of the first round corners, this guy was one of my favorite. I was more excited for the player. He was, definitely looked at as possibly, one of the top corners in the draft. Obviously, he had a lower back injury that required surgery, and I think that, hampered his draft stock a little bit. But I was so happy for the player and the person that he did not fall out of the first round. The Tennessee Titans took a chance on him. Caleb Farley, cornerback out of Virginia Tech. Talk to me, E. What did you see with this young man?
The back injuries probably scared me more than anything. You see a guy have, multiple injuries to his back, and I think he had like an ACL injury as well. So just the injuries start kind of piling up, and they're like, dang, man, like these are like the worst of the injuries that you want to see, especially for a guy who didn't even play last year and still had to end up getting surgery. So one thing he doesn't lack is confidence. I think he has all the confidence in the world. I think when you just talk about just pure athleticism, he's probably the freakiest of the athletes in the sense of just the way he closed on the ball. I think when the ball's on the air, it's reminiscent of like Deion Sanders, the way Deion was able to close on balls, passes in the air. It's special in that way. I think where he can improve a little bit is maybe just his consistency with technique. Playing with just athleticism isn't going to cut it in the NFL. Like you got to bring that technique with you, or you'll just be very inconsistent with guarding guys. So he can get better with just, his eyes, understanding, reading guys down, things like that. But when he is able to see it and anticipate it, all the ability is there. I think he explodes out of his break just as good as anybody I've seen at the cornerback position. So with him, a lot of it's just going to be, can he work really hard to be more consistent with his technique? And if everything else is there, the mindset, the ability, all that to change the direction. So I like him, but I'd be worried about the injury stuff. Kind of scares me just a little bit.
Yeah, I think for me, that was the biggest thing. Obviously player getting drafted, you want to go in the first round. So it's a feel good story for him to have all of that adversity and still go in the first round. But if you do look at it from a business aspect, like you said, the injuries do scare you. And when I put on the tape of Caleb Farley, the one thing that I love about him is he's not afraid to tackle. But if you're a corner who's not afraid to stick your nose in and make the tackle, I would think that you got to have some type of stability in your back. I don't think you want to get run over. Obviously, thankfully, he's on the team with Derrick Henry, so he doesn't have to tackle that guy. But if you look at some of the bigger backs in the league that he's probably going to have to go against, and even the bigger quarterbacks, I mean, if he goes up against Josh Allen, that dude's 6'5", 240. So, with his, willingness to tackle, do you think he'll have to change his game up a little bit? Will he have to be like Deion Sanders and start making a lot more business decisions and not getting in there and tackling because, maybe that could tweak some things with his back?
Man, I just think those are certain things that you can't really worry about. You can't go in there thinking like, oh, if I try to make this tackle, I'm going to hurt my back again. I think the moment you start doing things like that and worrying about those type of things, I think that's when it might be time to hang it up, So obviously, like he's gonna have to change something with the way he tackles, but you don't want to, lose that aggressiveness. Maybe he's just tackling wrong, and he has to fix that part of it. But most corners tackle wrong. But I think overall with him, it's you can't worry about it. Like you're just gonna have to. Okay, I'm healthy and I can go, or I'm not healthy and I can't play, and I'm just gonna have to figure out something. But the tackling thing is you're going to be put in that position where you're going to have to tackle a bunch of different ways, no matter what you try to do.
Now you bring up a good point. You say a lot of corners tackle incorrectly. So what do you see from a corner who is tackling incorrectly as opposed to a corner who is tackling the right way?
I think when I say like incorrectly, I mean you can watch like a video on how to tackle. And they're going to be like, step 2, face mask up, put on his chest, wrap up, shoot the hips through. Like, what I'm saying? It's going to be like that. And it's just like, man, that ain't realistic. Like, these running backs are hella big. Like, these receivers are big. Like, your mindset is just get him down, like, any way you can. So, a lot of guys going to kind of dive and shoot through the hip. And, that was the most effective way for me. And I was never hurt. But maybe that's something that, you've seen other guys get hurt or have some head injuries and things like that, and you'll see everybody on Twitter, that's just the incorrect way to tackle. Well, it's like, all right, well, you get out there and try to tackle these 210-pound guys running 4.3s and think that you're just going to, step through, chin up, wrap them up. Like, no, bro, he'll run through your stuff before you even know. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, it ain't happening like that. So I say incorrect, but I don't know. The correct way is not something that happens very often. When you see it, because it's like, wow, like that was a great tackle. That ain't happening too often though.
Okay. I guess from what I'm hearing, you just gotta find what works for you.
You gotta figure out what works for you. You gotta get the receiver down, or you gotta get the running back down first and foremost. Like get them down. Like all that perfect tackle, all that. Like that's how you get hurt. I mean, you're going to get hurt regardless playing this game of football. Like, ain't nobody going to go through a season and just be 100% healthy. I ain't missed games for most of my time playing, but, I had messed up shoulder or I had bad fingers or, I had a lingering knee or whatever. And, you get the little cortisone shot and you figure out a way to play in that game. So ain't nobody just, healthy like that. But all that proper way to tackle stuff, man, that it ain't that easy.
Yeah, man, I feel that for sure. Shout out to our homie Nick O'Hara, my guys, Crocker and Mose. What's up, fellas? Nick is the gentleman who, good friend of mine, good friend of the show. Nick is the person who made the introduction to Croc. My guy over at Nothing But Niners, doing good things. Great friend. So I appreciate you stopping through. Also, Amin the Dream. Croc, do you know who Amin is? Have you seen him on Grant Cohn's lives?
Yeah, he's been on my live, man. That youngster, he's more knowledgeable than me. Shoot.
You know, I'm telling you, Amin is that dude. I love Amin, love his energy, love his insight, man. That kid is awesome. Amin is always showing love, stopping in. So much love to him as well. Thank y'all, man, for the comments. I appreciate it. All right, Croc, let's move to the next corner. Fourth corner off the board. In the first round, pick 26 to the Cleveland Browns is Greg Newsom, the second cornerback out of Northwestern. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't do my homework on Newsom until, later on in the draft process. I did like what I saw from him. So I'm going to lean on you more for this one to kind of give us insight as to what type of player the Cleveland Browns are getting in Greg Newsom.
Yeah, man. I thought he had the best overall film. I thought he had the best film. I thought he was the most scheme versatile corner in the sense of being able to play off as well as he played press. I thought he was very consistent with that. I thought his feet changed the direction. Everything checked out. I thought on film, it didn't look like he was like big, but I was like, well, he's contesting guys at the catch point very well. I thought he challenged himself in space, with his feet to where like sometimes I like to, it's hard to explain, but it's like, I could tell when a guy's just reacting with his feet and he doesn't have to anticipate. Like there's some guys where it's like, man, they don't have that type of feet from off coverage, so they have to be able to anticipate very well. He can just react and his feet do all the thinking for him. I think he does a terrific job doing that. But scrappy player, physical, talk about a guy like, wanting to tackle and stick his head in there. I think he does a really good job of doing that. He was just somebody who was scrappy. He reminded me a lot of Jair Alexander. And then, he goes to the pro day and I find out, wow, 6 feet, 190 plus pounds, ran in the 4.3s, and a lot of that showed up on film. So he was actually one of my favorite corners in this class, and I was really high on him. Now, like Farley, he might have some, injury things or whatever. He missed games at Northwestern. So, maybe that's something that somebody could point to as a knock for him. But overall, he can go into Cleveland and be a really good cornerback for him. See what happens with like Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward. I know those guys kind of had a little bit of trouble staying on the field.
Yeah, Denzel is probably definitely the number one there. But I think this is, I don't want to say an indictment that may be too harsh. But I think the drafting of Greg Newsom is kind of that wake up call to Greedy Williams, like either step up or ship out. Greedy has had his opportunity. I don't think he's seized it as well as the Browns organizations would have liked him to. And now, they go out and get a guy like Greg Newsom. So if he is the number 2 corner opposite Denzel Ward, realistically, what do you think is the outlook for him going into a defense that is pretty much as stacked as the Cleveland Browns defense is?
I think he's in a very ideal situation. A team that has, terrific pass rushers. When if your front seven is good, it just makes everything else a lot easier for you, especially on the back end. So that's ideal, especially if you have Ward that's good. And I think that makes everybody else be able to play faster as well. The biggest thing is just can he stay on the field? Can he stay healthy? And can he get the mental side of things down? If he gets that, because playing defense in the NFL is a lot different than playing defense in the Big Ten. Like they're going to throw a whole lot of different things at you, the different schemes, concepts, the things that you face from an offensive standpoint. Like, in the Big Ten, guys just line up and most of the time the guys just line up on the same side of the field and they just run their little stale concepts. NFL, they're motioning guys down and, you're having to adjust quicker mentally, and then like your whole check changes and you got to make sure that your communication is on point. And then, they have this and guys moving this way, and just the NFL does so much more offensively. I think the mental part of it for a cornerback is probably the biggest adjustment for these guys. And that's why a lot of times you see cornerbacks get into the NFL and they don't just hit the ground running. That's because like offenses do so much now. So the mental part of it, that's where he's going to have to really get down.
And knowing, what you're doing now, we'll get into it a little bit later. But with you training young athletes, what would be one or two things that you would, teach a young corner, especially a rookie corner going into the league, about that mental hurdle and about, being able to overcome that mental obstacle?
Study. Have your flashcards with you at all times. While you're eating breakfast, while you're eating lunch, study those flashcards, man. Get your plays down, understand your job, understand where your help is, understand how to utilize your help, and then understand, what your checks are to different formations and motions and things like that. And you get that down, it'll help you play faster. I wish I would have done that heading in. Nobody told me what to expect or anything, so I'm like, damn, it was just all kind of happening fast. But I think that's one thing where, head in there and kind of understand that part of it, and the game will slow down for you for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, but give the viewers a perspective of how easy it is to not be on top of those mental cues. I mean, we've seen it all the time. I've seen Jalen Ramsey yell at Taylor Rapp for, not being where he was supposed to be because Jalen thought he had help back there and, Rapp wasn't in the proper position. I think, we've seen Earl Thomas, when he was in the league, he got on players for not being in the right position and, not being where they were supposed to be with a particular play. Like, how easy is it for a corner to, or a defensive back period to miss those cues and not be where they're supposed to be?
It's very easy because everything happens so fast, it's the motions that throw everything off. When they line up, if they just line up and go, like, yeah, you're fine. But once they start motioning, things start changing. Now is it, went from a single receiver, now there's doubles or twins. Then, what's the check to that? I got to make sure I'm on the same page with the other corner. Do I travel with the motion? Do I stay backside? If I am backside, what do I do? Am I rushing off the edge now? Because I remember there were some things where if my guy went away, now I rush. Am I a force player now? Like, does it stay man or does it check to some type of zone? If I am in the zone, what's the difference between, the way I have to play it? If I'm in cover 2, I have to play it a certain way. If I'm in cover 3, I have to play it a certain way. If I'm in the fire zone 3, I got to play it a certain way. And you have to know these things like the back of your hand. So I think that's the part where just one guy is off a little bit, it can mess up a whole play but a lot of times it's the motions and switch things that throw everything off. So if you're not on the same page with guys, then somebody might mess up, and that's when you see the blown assignments.
Yeah, and see, that's something that, sometimes the color commentators, they mention it, but, we as fans, sometimes we don't know exactly what went into the play. So kind of getting that breakdown, I think is very helpful from a fan's perspective. Moving on to the next corner in the first round. The last corner selected in the first round. This one kind of scratched my head a little bit. Not only, did I think the Packers, need to go somewhere else with this pick. But you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I think his 40 time pushed him up into the first round. But the Green Bay Packers select Eric Stokes, cornerback out of Georgia, at pick 29 in the first round. Let me know, what did you see? It obviously we know that the speed is there, but was he deserving of a first round pick?
I mean, that's a little high, but anytime you see somebody test, that well, it's going to definitely bump them up because they just possess type of talent that a lot of guys don't. I think for Eric Stokes, the biggest thing is just playing with that same, like all the athletic ability that he possesses, play with that. I thought there were times where he didn't really challenge himself too much, played it a little too safe, didn't squeeze routes, from off coverage. And I'm like, man, is he worried about getting beat? Is he worried about guys being able to outrun him? If so, like, bro, you possess all the talent. So I think with him, that's what I would like to see more. Like, challenge yourself more because you have the ability. He plays corner like I would. But, I was a 4.55 guy. Like, I didn't run a 4.2. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I ran a 4.2, then I could have played it a little different. Trust that you have the ability to win on a vertical route. Like, make them throw that. Like, that's the lowest percentage pass anyways. But you have the speed to be able to catch up, and challenge yourself in that way. Don't be in such a rush to give up, the underneath passes. I thought from that standpoint, he can get better. I think, on a positive note, I think his technique is really sound for the most part, especially at the line of scrimmage. Does a really good job of working square and getting hands on. So that, along with ability, is kind of probably what the Packers are banking on.
You said something. You hitting us with this knowledge, so I'm gonna need you to break it down for the casual fan who may not understand exactly what you said. One thing that I heard, because I hear it differently. You said he doesn't squeeze routes in off coverage. Explain that a little bit in depth so that the people understand exactly what you meant by that.
Well, sometimes like guys will be playing kind of off and in the shuffle, and he'll have a guy kind of running at him and then break his route off, and he just kind of drifts off a little bit, and then finally he closes, but quarterback throws it, it's just pitch and catch. I would like to see him kind of challenge that a little bit more to where it's like, hey, like, anticipate a little bit better, squeeze that route. If you're wrong, then like, okay, like now it's just a foot race, but you run the 4-2. But again, he plays it like I would play it, right? Like I would be worried about getting beat over the top because I ran in the 4-5s. You run in the 4-2s. You can challenge yourself in different ways that I can't. And that's why like a lot of guys that you see that are really good at the cornerback position, they're able to challenge themselves. Deion Sanders, like he can challenge himself. So yeah, Deion could be more aggressive, squeezing routes, reading things down, because if you do throw it vertical, he can turn around with that. Jalen Ramsey, another guy, he ran a 4.41, right? Like combine, like he's another guy, he can really run. So he's challenging himself in a different way. Like, the good corners, Stephon Gilmore, all those guys, like they can all run and they challenge themselves from that standpoint. So, playing it safe it's not going to cut it. You're just going to end up giving up a lot of catches in front of you. Now, maybe you don't get beat deep, but there's no reward either for that. Absolutely. Except for maybe PFF saying he gave up the least amount of deep balls. Like, it's like, all right, but what plays is he making? Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and not to say he didn't make plays. He did make some plays, but I'm saying he could have even been more like shut down if he would have challenged himself from more and maybe been a higher draft pick. Right.
Now I'm gonna put you on the spot, E. I've been watching your videos, man. I see you've been putting in work, grinding in the weight room and keeping the body right. You still in the 4.5s, bro?
Hell nah, man. I'd be lucky to break 4.8. I can work out, but man, not running. You start getting old and you don't use it anymore. I'm 34 years old now. I just turned 34 last week, so it starts to get a little tougher. To be able to hold that knee drive. I could probably run 4.85, maybe.
Okay. It's all good, man. Let's move on. We're into the second round now. And only, 4 picks later, Eric Stokes' teammate, Tyson Campbell, was selected by the Jacksonville Jaguars at pick 33. I know you mentioned Tyson Campbell earlier. So just touch on it again. What did you see? What did you like from Tyson? How do you think he fits in Jacksonville?
Very patient. I love the way he played. Now with Jacksonville, they got a whole new coaching staff, so we'll see what adjustments they make. I really like CJ Henderson. The year before, he was my CB1, and now they have a guy like Tyson Campbell, who is a top 5 corner for me. You look at his length and his ability and his speed and his feet. I think all those are terrific. What I'm interested to see is their head coach said that they're going to cross train him to play nickel. He doesn't look like a nickel to me. I didn't see nickel. And that's not to say that he didn't have good reps inside, but just ideally when you think of a nickel and those type of movement skills, I didn't think he had that. I thought he'd be a terrific outside guy and thought he could play well from there, but we'll kind of see what happens because, and I could be wrong, but I just didn't look at him as a nickel guy. And I think for him, especially a rookie coming into the NFL, I don't think I would cross-train him to be a nickel. I think if you want to talk about a guy with man press ability and just the ability to line up inside to play man with certain matchups, that's one thing. But if you're talking about, well, yeah, I want you to play outside and be this really good corner outside, but also I'm going to put you inside. Now, remember, I talked about all the different things from the outside and all the different motions and things like that, the adjustments. Well, now I got to learn all those adjustments, all those motions, all those things from the outside corner position, and then Slot, which is a totally different position. The drops are different. The zones are different. Like based on where I'm at, if it's a fire zone, I do this if I'm on outside. But if I'm in the nickel, I do all this. And you're going to throw all that at him from the jump. We'll see how he handles it. But that could be like overload. And if you see some blown assignments from Tyson Campbell, that's why. But maybe he has the mental capacity to handle all of that. We'll see. But again, the mental part of it is one thing. It's a whole another thing. The physical part of it, and that's the part where I was like, I didn't necessarily see maybe the consistent movement skills to be that type of guy, but really like him on the outside. And again, I can show you reps where he played very well in the slot. I posted some where it was good man against Kadarius Toney. Another one was against, I want to say was Mechie for Alabama. So he has those reps, but I just didn't think like that's who he is consistently.
And if you talk about that, and if you think about muscle memory, what you do as an outside corner is different from what you do as an inside corner. On top of the mental aspect, if you do see some blown assignments, some miscues from Tyson Campbell, talk about how that can affect his confidence, especially as a young corner, and what that hit to his confidence can then do to his play, and how it can trickle into you stacking more bad plays instead of stacking more good plays.
I think that's a really good point. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, I think there's definitely some frustration that can creep in, or maybe feeling like you're not good enough to do this, that, and the other, especially when you haven't established yourself at one area. Like now, if he just came in and he was he's going to be a nickel and you work on it, like that's one thing. But to well, you're going to play outside, but yeah, you're going to play nickel too. We're going to cross train. You're going to do these different things, but I haven't even built up my confidence or solidified myself at one spot. And now I'm inconsistent on the outside, but then I'm inconsistent in nickel. Now I'm just an inconsistent ass corner, and that's not good. So, and that can mess with your confidence a little bit.
Now let's talk about this a little bit more in depth too, because as a player, and you've been around it and you've seen how this can affect guys. A lot of the negativity goes to the player. The player becomes the scapegoat because of their inconsistency. And only later, when the coaching staff has a string of inconsistent players based on their poor decision making with not only one player, but multiple players, then the coach gets fired. But talk about that dichotomy between, the fan seeing a player and saying, oh, this guy stinks, but not really knowing that the coaching staff is not utilizing him to the best of his abilities. They're either putting too much on him or they have him in a position that doesn't work. Prime example for me and us as 49er fans is Solomon Thomas. We got him and we immediately tried to take him and put him on the outside as a defensive end, and that didn't work. It didn't work for him. So kind of talk to that and how that can be frustrating for the player.
I think that's a big part of it. And if you talk to a lot of players, they're probably frustrated with it as well. I mean, Jimmy Ward was another guy that was yanked around a lot, bunch of different, positions and things like that, and wasn't able to truly solidify himself at one spot. It was like, well, this year you're going to be a nickel coming into the NFL. Well, oh no, we're going to put you on the outside. Well, now we're going to put you at safety. No, you know what? We're going to put you back in the nickel. And it's just like, can I get comfortable at one spot? Can I show that I can play this one spot and have some level of consistency? So I think that's one thing that definitely can hurt guys. And I think just like a coaching staff coming in and doing that weird stuff like that Jacksonville is doing with Tyson Campbell, it's not ideal. And, again, like you said, the player ends up taking all the heat for it where he just can't play. But it's like, man, like, look at what this coaching staff is asking this guy to do. And nobody ever blames you. I think look at other positions. Look at, Sam Darnold with the Jets. And it's like, dude, I have no running back. I have no offensive line. I have no weapons. But, like, I get all the blame for my poor play and poor decisions. But it's like, his decision-making is bad. Well, yeah, I'm under pressure every play. So you expect me to have, make good decisions? Like, I think the organization failed him. I think they do that a lot, like, with players. But everybody wants to point to the player all the time because that's the one that you see on the field.
Yeah, man, that's a horrible situation for the players to be in. I think that needs to be changed and switched up. But coaches and ownership, they run the league, so we won't spend too much time there. Moving on, second round pick, number 44 by the Dallas Cowboys. This is a young corner who did get a lot of buzz throughout the draft process. Some folks did have him in the top 5. And the Dallas Cowboys, to my surprise, stuck to their weakness. I think of their 11 picks, I think 9 of them were defense. And they go Kelvin Joseph, cornerback out of Kentucky. What do you know about this young fellow?
Yeah, I thought like his biggest issue was like just he had bad eyes most of the time. And what that kind of means is like just from a zone standpoint, if he's supposed to be reading 2-1 and 1 sits down and 2 goes vertical, like he ain't squeezing 2. If he's supposed to be driving his man out of a break, he ended up peeking at the quarterback and that'll slow up his break on the receiver. Like those things are fixable. Now, is he going to put in the work to do it? That's a whole nother thing. But from a talent perspective, height, weight, speed checks out, movement skills, fluidity checks out. All those things are good. But I think when it just comes to him being like a pure coverage guy, he just has to improve his eyes more. And if he can do that, then he'll be just fine. But that was one thing where it's like, I kind of noticed it a little bit too much. And, does he have the work ethic to improve that? I mean, he's a guy who, he left LSU. Or why did he leave LSU? I've heard, different things about, off-field issues and stuff like that. So, and I don't know. I'm just telling you what has been kind of reported about him. So those are things that definitely you want to look into. But from an ability standpoint, he has it. I mean, he flashed against Alabama. I thought that was his best game, and that's the best talent that he played against. And he showed all the ability to be able to cover from off coverage, from press, and do those things. So did a terrific job there. I talked about, Eric Stokes not squeezing in breaking routes. Well, Kelvin Joseph did it extremely well against Alabama in the red zone. So I think overall it's just can he find the consistency to improve his eyes and have better eye discipline? If so, then I think he can be a really good corner opposite of Diggs for the Cowboys.
Now, do you think with Kelvin Joseph, and I think this is one of the things I've seen, you mentioned that Alabama film, that was like probably his best film. Do you think he's motivated by competition? When the level of competition is high and he's expected to produce, he produces. But then if the level of competition is so or something he may deem to be beneath him, where he may, be lax and, kind of shut it down a little bit, do you think that may be an issue for him?
I don't know, but I hope not, because in the NFL, you ain't gonna last long if you can't compete. That's what the NFL is. Especially now he's a second round pick, so it's different. Like he's gonna be there regardless, unless he's just the worst corner ever. But they invest that type of draft capital in you. They're gonna play you, regardless. So, but a guy that's undrafted, like every Tuesday, you see those guys working out and like they're guys that are free agents and they're trying to take your job. So every day is competition in the NFL. They'll get you out of there if you're a guy that can't handle it. Saw that with like Dante Pettis.
For sure. Don't mention him, man. That's a sore spot. Don't bring that guy up. And right on time and mean to change the subject. Quick question for Croc. Who was a better corner in their prime, Sherman or Revis?
That's crazy. He asked that. I was just on a live show with the Jets, podcast, like literally right before I came in here, and they asked me that same thing. They actually had Patrick Peterson in there as well. I think the guys are different. They're different style of corners. So I think a lot of it just depends on what style of defense do I want to play. If I'm a more man-heavy team and I want to shadow guys and shade my secondary to the other side, then I'm probably going to lean towards Revis. But I think when Seattle asked Sherman, to play a certain style of defense, it's hard to find anybody that executed their job ever better than Sherman in what he was asked to do. I mean, he was a terror for teams. So he wasn't asked to do as much, as like a Revis who was following around, Chad Johnson and Randy Moss and all these other guys like Dez Bryant. No matter where they lined up, he lined up over them a lot of times. For a majority of games, they put they put a big time job on him, and he was up for the task, and he had some of the best years that we've ever seen from a cornerback. So just with what he was tasked to do, I would say Revis, but obviously Sherman, I mean, again, I feel like he executed what they asked him to do better than anybody we've seen in that coverage.
Now, as a corner, you are our resident corner. You played the position. Should the fans put any stock into this argument? We've seen Revis and Sherman going back and forth. Revis's, his big argument is, well, you never followed anybody. And Sherm's argument is, yeah, but I did what I was asked to do at the highest level. So, from a player standpoint, from a competitor standpoint, do you put any stock into that argument of being able to follow another team's best wide receiver, no matter where he is on the field? Does that give Revis the edge? Not only did he do his job well, he has an island named after him, but he followed the other team's best wide receiver, no matter where he was on the field. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I would say from a fan standpoint, I think it's always, fun to have those type of debates and conversations. From a professional standpoint, I think, you understand what those guys were asked to do, and they both executed at the highest level. So I think I respect both of those guys and the way they played and the things that they were asked to do. And, they both won a Super Bowl and were big parts of winning the Super Bowl, playing the way that they played and doing the things that they were asked to do, execute at the highest level. Really, Sherman should have 2 Super Bowls. So, and Revis should have none, really, because he was on the opposite side. So.
Amin trying to get you to say somebody is better than somebody else. He was like, who was better, Champ Bailey or Charles Woodson?
If you're just going pure cornerback, Champ Bailey. But if you are just talking about defensive back overall, what Charles Woodson did with Green Bay, I mean, that was like amazing. So if we're just going pure corner, I'm taking Champ Bailey for sure.
And then lastly, Amin got a ton of questions today. I'm about to send him the link and have him jump on here. He said, Croc, what is your top 5 greatest cornerback list of all time?
Ooh, see, I would have to think about it, because if I say something right now, then I'm just kind of talking out my butt, I don't want to I don't like to just talk. Anybody know me? I want to really have a thorough reasoning, because if this kind of gets out there and somebody puts it out there and maybe it's not exactly what I'm thinking, then people would jump all in my mentions and tell me how stupid I am and how dumb I am and how I don't know anything. And, man, I'd be getting attacked, man. I'd be like, dang, man, chill. Yeah. Let me think about that. Deion number 1 though, so I know that for sure. Deion's number 1. I'd say in no particular order. I'd throw Revis in there for sure. Champ Bailey for sure. And I'm talking about more guys that are just kind of more of my era. I mean, there are a lot of other guys that I can name that I know were really good, like Darryl Green, Tyler. I really liked Dre Bly a lot when I was a kid. So it's kind of hard to just narrow it to 5. But there were a lot of corners that I really appreciated the way they played over the years. Cromartie was a guy who I watched a ton of. Young Cromartie, I mean, he had double-digit interceptions in 1 year. So, there are a lot of really good corners. I appreciate the way they played and really helped me a lot.
Sounds good. So, I mean, keep that question in the tuck, and when you have your own show and you bring Eric on, make sure to give him a heads up that you're going to ask that question so he can come prepared to give you his top 5 lists. Yeah. Last corner, I got a graphic for. We're gonna do the first 2 rounds, and then the rest of the show is just some wrap it up kind of talk. We got Asante Samuel Jr. Taken at pick 47 in the second round by the Los Angeles Chargers. Son of Asante Samuel, all-pro corner for the Patriots and the Eagles. Let me know what you saw, E.
Yeah, I initially when I first put on this film, he was somebody who I'm like, oh man, this is a nickel. He was playing outside, but they had him only playing to the field. They had another guy playing to the boundary, so I just assumed that they felt that that guy was just more physical than Asante Samuel. He was playing primarily off, and then when they got in the green zone, like the 10 yards and in, like the goal line area, they would take Asante Samuel Jr. out, and I'm like, well, are they telling me he's too small to play there? So my initial reactions were, and then when they did go man press, they put him in the nickel against like Amari Rodgers. This is all 2019 I'm talking about. And those were things that were a little like, pure nickel. But then as I continued to watch and I watched more film and I saw how he challenged himself on the outside, played against guys in that green area, challenged receivers at the catch point, knocking balls away, when they were, more physically opposing guys than him. Just watching how he challenged himself in space, being able to play off, break back down, play with, really good anticipation. I thought he did a really good job with that. I thought he was probably the best tackling corner that I saw from this class. Very consistent, aggressive tackler. Didn't need a certain angle to be able to tackle somebody. He just always got them to the ground. So, he's a scrappy guy, somebody that I definitely really liked him a lot. I'd say he's right around my top 5 in this class.
Shout out to John V. John V 49er says 2 of the kings of the Niner Empire. Fellas, always a pleasure to listen to y'all kill it. John V, thank you so much, man. Appreciate the love. What do you think about his fit in Los Angeles with the Chargers?
Like it. Did they get the coach? Did their head coach come from the Rams? Was he the defensive coordinator with the Rams? Was that him?
I think so.
I gotta fact check that. But if it is, they played like a lot of off coverage and did some things there, and it's like, he fits like a glove with that defense. If that's the case, so if that is the case, then I really like where he went, and I thought that was the case, but I never just really looked it up. Brandon Allen, was that his name?
Brandon Staley, right?
Staley, yeah. Where'd he come from? Was he the D coordinator with the Rams?
Yes, he previously served as defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams in 2020, and also served as assistant coach for the Denver Broncos and Chicago Bears. So yes, Brandon Staley did come from the Rams.
Yeah, he's gonna fit that defense extremely well.
All right. Those are the first and second round corners from the 2021 NFL draft. There were, I believe, 38 corners taken in the 2021 NFL draft. We'll be here all night. I don't want to keep Eric all night. So for the third and seventh round of those later rounds, of those day 3 picks, give me one corner who you really, really liked in that 3rd round to 7th round range.
Well, I'll tell you a guy who didn't even get drafted, and I really liked him, and that was Elijah Griffin out of USC. Really liked his ability to be a versatile corner, play press, play off, scrappy, dog on the field, really good tackler in the open field, had good, coverage skills. Didn't look like he was like just this blazer or anything like that, but I thought he ran well enough for the most part. I was really kind of shocked to see him go undrafted. Thought he at the very least would have been a day 3 guy, around the 5th round. But he's a guy who I really liked, and I think, him going to Buffalo, he has a really good opportunity there to play opposite Tre'Davious White. They've had guys like Wallace, Levi Wallace, I think, left for free agency. So there's some opportunity there to kind of really be able to work himself into, making that roster, hopefully, and then, eventually getting on the field. So we'll see how that all works out for him. But that was a guy who I really liked day 3.
Okay. Yeah. I really liked Benjamin St. Juste. I liked his tape from Minnesota, but at the Senior Bowl, he really, showed up and showed out there. But you actually, moved ahead to my next topic that I wanted to get to. And you already mentioned Elijah Griffin as an undrafted free agent. A corner that I loved. I really fell in love with him throughout the process. I love his tape. I really thought that Trill Williams would have also been a day 3 guy. I love his tape at Syracuse. He's always around the ball. I think he has good feet. Obviously, there are some things that he needed to work on. But I just like you with Elijah Griffin, I didn't think Trill Williams would go undrafted. Did you do any study on Trill Williams? What did you see? What do you think was the reason why he may have been undrafted?
I thought he was a little tight with some of his movements, and it was interesting because he played like nickel, I want to say, for Syracuse. I watched more of Melifanu than I did Trill, but I did notice him there in the nickel, just like, doesn't really look like a pure nickel to me, but like, all right. But he was someone who, he just got let go by the Saints. Did he end up getting picked up? Because the Saints cut him. I think he didn't pass the physical or something like that. But
really,
yeah, he got cut. He got cut during rookie minicamp.
Oh no, that's not good because I really like Trill. I wanted to see him do well. Yep, he got cut by New Orleans, and it says the Miami Dolphins claimed Trill Williams off waivers from the New Orleans Saints.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
So he found another home to go to, but Miami got some corners. So
yeah, they got corners, but you start to look at the depth, and maybe they might find a different role for him than just a traditional outside or nickel, which I didn't think he was so much a nickel, but. Obviously having Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, every team, you want to have depth. And if you feel like a guy's talented, it can fit to some capacity, even if it's special teams, you go ahead and get him.
And one thing that I thought was odd, I think the NFL.com has him listed as a safety. So okay. maybe that's what some teams are looking at. Maybe they want to move him from that corner spot, especially, from your film study. If you're saying he's not a traditional nickel, I know he does have really good ball skills and he has good instincts. So maybe he may fit better as a free safety than lining up at outside corner and then the nickel. We're coming up on the hour mark. Croc, I thank you so much for your time tonight, man. 2 more questions and then we can get you on out of here. Of the sons of the NFL sons, that is J.C. Horn, son of Joe Horn, Patrick Surtain II, son of Pat Sr., and Asante Samuel Jr., son of Asante Samuel Sr. Who do you think of those 3 has the best rookie season, and who do you think has the better overall career when it's all said and done?
I mean, I gotta go with J.C. Horn. I think he's just but you know what? No, hold on. I think that's too easy. I'm gonna go with Patrick Surtain, which is, I guess it's kind of easy too. But to go to a team where you have a great defensive coordinator in Fangio, who's probably most likely going to put you in the best situation for you to be able to succeed, and then you have really good booking pass rushers with Chubb. You got Von Miller back, and he's healthy and everything. He's ready to go. So you kind of look at that situation and just be like, man, I could see him having a good, rookie year just because of the situation that he's in. And guys being able to really get after it and get it. Now I like what Carolina, they got Brian Burns and things like that. And if I had to say just best career, I'll go with J.C. Horn, but I'd say best rookie year, I can see Patrick Surtain being that guy.
Okay. Final question of the night, man. Do you think one of these corners can win Defensive Rookie of the Year? Usually that award goes to the rookie pass rusher, who made the most impact, has a lot of sacks. The past 2 years, it was Chase Young. The year before that, it was Nick Bosa. Or it's the middle linebacker as a rookie who has 100+ tackles. I think it's rare that you see a corner win Defensive Rookie of the Year. But do you think that any one of these corners that we spoke about tonight has the ability to do so? And if so, who do you think has that ability and who's in the best situation to do so?
I do think J.C. Horn is in the best position to do so because of the division that he's in and the receiver and how well he matches up with those receivers. Then when you kind of look at it, just like the overall grand scheme of things, and they're not really being those top tier defensive guys in this class, right? Like it was corners. Typically, there's a Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, like, a Garrett, Miles Garrett, like just these pass rushers and things like where it's going to be like, man, it's going to be hard to beat out one of these guys that are a 10+ sack type guy, but there's not that this year. I mean, maybe Parsons that went to Dallas Cowboys. Maybe he's in the position, but even then, there still is Jalen Smith there. There still is LVE there. So we'll see how it works his way in. But being the leading linebacker of that team, kind of hard to see. But J.C. Horn, he's going to come in and he's going to be starting day one. And again, I think he matches up well against the receivers in his division. So if I had to go with one guy that could possibly win it, it's him. So Surtain's going to have it's a little bit harder when you kind of look and you see those Kansas City Chiefs in your division, and at any point you might get matched up with Tyreek Hill, and that's a little tough, especially seeing that twice a year.
For sure. I one more question. Stuff always popping in my head. What do you think about the number changes? You talk about J.C. Horn. He's going to wear number 8 in honor of Kobe. So what do you think about, the NFL Institute and the number changes, cornerbacks, running backs wearing single digit numbers? I think Christian McCaffrey put a IG post out there asking fans if he should switch to number 5. What's your thoughts on that?
It's a little weird at first, just because you traditionally see, it be more of a college thing. But I mean, every other pro league has it. The Arena League, I wore number 2. The CFL, guys are wearing single digit numbers. So I think the NFL, they're just the last ones to the party. So I'm fine with it. It's a little weird that guys are just like changing their numbers to it, like number they've worn their whole career. Then all of a sudden it's like Jason Verrett, he's worn 22 his whole career. Then all of a sudden it's like, let me go get 2 because I wore that in college. Like, that's a little weird, but I think overall just seeing guys be able to wear those single digit numbers, I think they're gonna rock it, man. I think it's gonna look cool. I wonder, can DBs wear number like 15? Can they wear numbers in the teens? I haven't seen that, but
I think they can. I think the DBs are, what are they? 0 to 20, 0 to 29 or 0 to 49 or something like that.
Yeah, probably 0 to 49.
Yeah, I think they can wear 0 to 49. So if they wanted to wear 15, 17, like the wide receivers used to, I think they can do that. We got a question from John V. It says, Croc, who do you feel A.J. Brown has a chance to be more of an elite talent than DK long term? Do you feel A.J. Brown should have made all pro?
I would have to look at the all pro receivers right now. So that's just kind of tough to answer. But as far as being better than DK or, being more elite talent than DK, I think I'm reading this question wrong. I think if he's asking, do I feel like A.J. Brown had a better chance to be or had more elite talent than DK, I would say no. But obviously, talent is just part of it. You got to, have the ability and you have to put it to work. I think both of them are in really good situations for, who they are and how they succeed. I think Tennessee does a really good job of getting A.J. Brown the ball in space. I think DK does a really good job with Seattle stretching the field. And obviously, we've seen that run after catch ability. So they're both terrific. I think with both of those guys, you can't go wrong. And, they were my 1 and 2 receivers in that class. So I had DK at 1. I had A.J. Brown at 2, Deebo Samuel at 3, or some sort of that. So, obviously, I think all those guys are really, really terrific.
A.J. Brown has been absolutely hilarious the past couple of days with the pitches that he's been making to get Julio Jones in Tennessee. That guy is a character, man. Listen, I'm trying to get out of here, but I keep thinking of questions. I don't want to keep you too long. I promise this is the last question. We're 49er fans and we're talking about corners. 49ers drafted 2 corners in Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore. Let me know what you think about, both of those guys and how they fit within this 49ers defense.
We'll see what DeMeco Ryans does at the with the defense in general. Does he stick with kind of a little bit more of what Saleh did and what Saleh was going to start running a little bit more quarters than anything else? And I think those guys fit for different reasons. I think Diamador Lenore is more of a, can play off in space. Sounds like they might mix him in some nickel type stuff. So he's just kind of a little bit more versatile skill set that he's shown. I think when you talk about, being patient at the line of scrimmage, like I talked about with Surtain and Campbell and those guys, Embry Thomas is more of that. Loves to play at the line of scrimmage. I think he's terrific there. I think he has a really good, smart mindset. I watched him kind of like getting his teammates lined up on plays and then still do his job and like really make it look easy, look like a competitor. He's competing at the catch point all the time. So I think both of those guys have talent to, hopefully, obviously like, make the roster and make an impact to some extent, even if it's just special teams. But they fit for different reasons. And I would like to see how they're going to utilize Embry Thomas, because again, he is somebody that played primarily press. I'd probably say 95% of the time he played at the line of scrimmage, and I'll see if that continues with the 49ers. NFL teams are going to force him to play off. They'll motion guys down tight splits and force you off, and then we'll see how he does from there.
Cool. I see you at the gym, man. Owner of Rise Athletics. I got the ticker down at the bottom. You can follow Croc on Twitter at Crocker Report. Also follow his YouTube channel. youtube.com/Croc Talk TV. Croc, before we get out of here, man, just let the people know everything that you're doing, man. Entrepreneur, got the content on social media going. Just let people know what you got going on, what's in the works for the Crocker Report and Croc Talk TV.
Yeah, man. Again, you guys follow me. You follow the Crocker Report, of course. Follow me on Twitter at Eric_Crocker. Got the YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe to that. Got the Patreon, patreon.com/Croc Talk. So make sure you guys get that. And I got some big news coming this Sunday. So big news. You guys will probably see one of the announcements coming up, and then you'll see another announcement come Sunday night. So pretty cool. And I'm pretty sure it's something that you guys are all aware of in the sense of this platform. So pretty cool.
That's what's up, man. I can't wait to see what that announcement is and look forward to, you doing good things, man. Again, good dude. Appreciate, all the conversations that we've had, man. You've helped out. I reached out to you when my little brother was making his decision about going to school. You really gave me some good insight there. So again, appreciate you, for all the things that you're doing, in this space of football talk, content creation, everything you're doing for the Niners, man. So thank you so much for coming on. Greatly appreciate you. I believe I saw you post today's your daughter's birthday, right?
Yeah, my baby, she turned 7 today.
That's what's up, man. Big Mose knows happy birthday to your daughter. May is my birthday month. So
yeah, mine too. I just turned 34 on the 20th. One daughter born, her birthday's today. And my other daughter, she's on the 31st. So she turns 5.
So my oldest daughter, she's May 7th. She turned 8. My youngest daughter, she turned 4 on Monday, the 24th.
Okay.
My grandmother's birthday is tomorrow. My little brother's birthday was like last week. So May is a super birthday month in both of our households. Yep. So happy birthday to your daughter. Happy belated birthday to you. From everyone here at Mose Knows, again, thank you so much for coming on. Folks, that's going to wrap up our show for tonight. I hope you had your pen and your pad out, taking some notes. All the gems that Croc dropped for us tonight, you will see those in training camp, in preseason, or during the regular season. So when these analysts and when these guys on ESPN and NFL Network are talking about some of these things, now you have the inside knowledge from the perspective of a pro cornerback, and you'll be able to understand what those guys are talking about. Give him a like and a follow on all his social medias. Again, if you watching this on YouTube, all the links to everything, his Twitter, his website, YouTube channel, the Patreon, all of that will be in the link. All those links will be in the description of this video. And again, appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch y'all in the next episode. Peace.